A group of Marion County residents are protesting against a potential power line being built through their nature trails. TV20's Misty Webb tells us why residents don't want to see this infrastructure development near them.
The Greenway Guardians held a rally and hiked a mile to persuade Duke to not compromise the Greenway that many Ocala residents call home. The group was made after the founder Cliff Edwards stumbled upon the proposal from Duke Energy to place steel towers connecting high voltage transmission lines. He says he was heartbroken to see that somebody would take this preserve from residents. Over 200 people attended the rally at the Marjorie Carr, Florida Greenway in the morning.
We had bikers, hikers, equestrians. We had children in strollers with their parents pushing them. It was a fine representation of the visitors that use this most precious greenway.
The Greenway is one of the many possible routes Duke officials are choosing between, but no plans are currently set. Duke officials say these power lines and poles are necessary.
And they've got other alternatives that they could use to run their lines. I know it's going to be a little bit more expensive, but quite honestly, they have the money. We've only got one Greenway. Once it's gone, it's gone.
Nick Warnkin lives in Marion Oaks and finds a 110-mile recreational conservation as a safe space for him.
I have a hectic job. You know, I get my butt kicked on a daily basis, and when I want to just let it all go, this is where I come. You know, I get the exercise, I get the nature, I get camaraderie, I get to see my friends. It's just hugely important to me.
The Greenway Guardians hope through more rallies and protests, they will be able to save the Greenway. Duke Energy is allowing feedback until November 30th. Residents can give feedback through phone, email, or through their website. In Marion Oaks, Misty Webb, TV 20 News.